How's it going, guys? It's Red, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys a super powerful high DPS AR setup that you guys can be using right now in Back 4 Blood. But before we get into the video, I would like to acknowledge that I know I've been MIA for around the past year or so, but that's going to change, and I am going to start consistently uploading on the channel again. And I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who is still here watching my videos. Also, don't forget to check out the link to my Discord server. It's going to be down in the description below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome Back 4 Blood content just like this. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so here we are in the deck building menu in Back 4 Blood. This is going to be the complete deck list, so if you guys are just looking to copy and paste the deck, now is your time to do so. But for the remainder of this video, I'm just going to be talking about what role every card plays in the deck and just everything like that. Now, the first category of cards that we have in this deck are going to be our weak spot damage cards, and to start this category off, we have Hyper Focused, which is going to give us plus 50% weak spot damage and minus 40% move speed while we're shooting or melee attacking as the downside. Up next, we have Hellfire, which is going to give us plus 45% move speed while we're firing and plus 3% move speed while we're not firing. Next, we have Reckless Strategy, which is going to give us plus 30% weak spot damage and minus 5% damage resistance as the downside. And next, we have Knowledge is Power, which is going to give us plus 10% weak spot damage, and it allows players to see values for damage they deal and enemy health bars. And to round this category off, we have Front Sight Focus, which is going to give us plus 20% accuracy and plus 10% weak spot damage, along with 15% aim speed and recoil control. Now, the reason that you want to play these weak spot cards specifically is because when you add them all up, it's going to give you exactly plus 100% weak spot damage. And weak spot damage is one of those categories in the game that you do not want to go over 100% or else it's going to start negatively affecting you. Now, for example, if you were to put 110% weak spot damage in your deck, you'd actually only be getting 90% effectiveness out of it. Now, I'm not exactly sure why some of these categories are like this, but it's not for all of them, it's only for some, but weak spot damage is one of those. Now, as far as why we're playing the weak spot cards that we're playing, I think that this card is just so inherently busted that putting an entire other card in your deck to take the downside off this card is just actually okay. And as far as why we play Knowledge is Power and Front Sight Focus, I think that getting just as much value as we're getting out of these two cards, along with the 20% weak spot damage that we're going to be getting anyway, is just too much value to pass up. But if you guys really are hurting for the card slot, you guys could not play Knowledge is Power and Front Sight Focus and play something like Ridden Slayer, which will give you that plus 20% weak spot damage. But keep in mind what I was talking about earlier with the percents, how if you're taking out either Knowledge is Power and Front Sight Focus, you want to take them both out, because if you were to put Ridden Slayer in and take out like Front Sight Focus, your deck would be at 110% weak spot damage, which is what we don't want. And I think just being able to see the health bars of like all the special infected, along with having the extra like accuracy, aim speed, and recoil control is just way better than any other value we're going to get on a single card and playing Ridden Slayer. Now moving on to the next category of the deck, which is just going to be all of the base damage cards. And to start this off, we have Glass Cannon, which is going to give us plus 25% damage and minus 30% of our health as the downside. Next, we have Patient Hunter, which is going to say every 0.75 seconds we ADS, it increases our bullet damage by 10% up to 3 stacks. Up next, we have Shredder, which is going to say each bullet hit causes the target to take 1% increased damage for 3 seconds, stacking up to 15%. And the last two cards in this category are going to be Large Caliber Rounds, which gives us plus 7.5% bullet damage and plus 200% bullet penetration, and Silver Bullets, which is going to give us plus 10% bullet damage and plus 15% effective bullet range. Now, as far as to why we are playing these damage cards specifically, I think that Patient Hunter and Shredder are just obvious picks for the deck, because when we're playing ARs, we're obviously going to be ADSing quite a bit, which is going to make Patient Hunter that much better, and most of the ARs in the deck are fully automatic, so it's going to be making Shredder just that much better. Now, Large Caliber Rounds and Silver Bullets kind of serve the same purpose in the deck. They're both cards that give us base bullet damage and some sort of other value with our bullets. Now, Large Caliber Rounds in this deck is the much better one because it gives us 200% bullet penetration, which is super strong, and it's going to make it so the common infected aren't that much of a problem and they don't stonewall our bullets, which is going to make our ARs just so much better. I think Glass Cannon is like the most up in the air pick for this deck, but there's so many ways you can get around the downside for this card if you want. I do think that you should be playing this card. I think that just getting the extra 25% base damage is just too good to pass up. And if you're really worried about the downside, you could either do something like we did with Hyper Focused and play like the equivalent to Hellfire, which is a card called Canned Goods or Hydration Pack, which is going to give you a lot of health with some other downside. So if you think that the downside of this card is just way too much, you could cut something like Hellfire or maybe one of these cards in the bottom here and play like Hydration Pack or Canned Goods. But I really don't think you should not play this card. I think this card is just way too good to not play. Now for the next category of cards, we are going to be going over our reload speed. And for the first card in this category, we have Cold Brew Coffee, which is going to give us plus 15% reload speed and 25% aim speed, weapon swap speed, and use speed. Up next, we have Wide Mouth Magwell, which is going to give us plus 30% reload speed and minus 5% damage resistance as the downside. And to round off this category, we have Ammo Belt, which is going to give us plus 50% ammo capacity and plus 15% reload speed. Now, when you add up all of these together, it actually only gives us plus 60% reload speed, and I actually did that on purpose. I just don't think that ARs need the plus 100% reload speed. I don't think that they are close enough to the action as long as you position yourself right to where you need the plus 100% reload speed. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can't just spam your melee button and your reload doesn't cancel itself while you're meleeing. So I just really didn't personally feel like I needed to put a whole bunch of more reload speed cards in the deck, and there's really not a lot of reload speed cards that aren't super linear. Like, I really don't like that I have to play cards like Wide Mouth Magwell that only give me reload speed and a downside, but I do think it's a necessary evil. That's actually why I think Cold Brew Coffee and Ammo Belt are better than Wide Mouth Magwell in this deck, because I just think that getting the extra value and just incidentally getting reload speed is so much better for ARs, and that's much more what they want to do as to just taking up a whole slot for, you know, just reload speed, but it's a necessary evil in my opinion. And the last two cards in this deck are just kind of value cards. They really don't line up to any sort of category. They're just good cards that help the deck do what it wants to do. And the first one's going to be Line 'em Up, which gives us plus 10% effective bullet range and 15% recoil control, along with 25% bullet penetration and aim speed. I think that this card just gives us way too much value to pass up, especially for like no downside. I think that this card and like Cold Brew Coffee are just absolutely all-stars in the AR deck. And I really think that most decks that revolve around guns, so as long as you're not like a melee build or like a sniper build or something like that, you should absolutely have Line 'em Up in your deck. And for the last card in this deck, we have Empowered Assault, which says after we kill a mutation, the next time we damage a mutation, it is guaranteed to cause them to stumble. And it also gives us a passive effect, giving us plus 5% team stumble damage. Now, this card is an absolute house in this deck. That being, if you get a free stumble, you should be able to kill basically any special infected that you come across, as long as they're not like a boss, you know, like a hag, a breaker, anything like that. But like a tall boy, a reeker, anything that comes at you, if you shoot at them and they get stumbled, you should be able to kill them. And that's just a very, very potent effect. Well, that's going to do it for the video, guys. Make sure to leave a comment down below telling me any deck changes that you guys would make. And as always, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to my channel for more awesome Back 4 Blood content just like this. Also, make sure to check out the link to my Discord server. It's going to be down in the description below. And until next time, it's been Red, and I'll see you guys in the next video.